Target in sight, Captain.
We've waited a long time for Maximilian to show his face. It's now or never.
No pressure then. I've got some new friends.
You're clear to engage. Strike team, move in and take out Maximilian's cover.
Go ahead. We're going to have guests.
Hello, gents. Oh, he's getting away.
This will get a lot harder if he reaches his safe house.
Then let's make sure he doesn't.
Winston.
I'm on it.
Remember, we need Maximilian alive. He's our only good lead on Talon.
I'm not the one you should worry about. He's gone.
Don't worry, he won't get far on foot.
Don't get cocky. That storm is getting close, and Maximilian is as resourceful as they get. I trust you. Just try not to blow up anything else.
Ha! No promises.
Hello everybody and welcome back to an Overwatch video. I have not touched Overwatch with a 10-foot pole for so long, and I just recently decided to jump back in and play the newest Archives event, Storm Rising. And this video is basically going to be an overview, a review, giving my thoughts on the event, and maybe even just a quick summary of what's happening with Overwatch recently and my impressions and feeling towards this game. So let's first start off by covering the actual event, because this is the newest thing to hit the Overwatch market, Storm Rising. I'm going to give a blanket judgment and then go more in depth with my reasoning. I will explain. I was neither thrilled nor extremely disappointed with this event. I felt more of a middle ground, and that isn't good. But it isn't bad, you know what I mean? I literally just said, you know what I mean? Wow, I'm such a millennial. But with the current state of Overwatch, I feel like Blizzard really needed an event to wow us, to keep players interested and have a reason for them to keep investing time in this game. Apologies if you could hear the sirens in the background. Coming back to where I left off, I truly believed that Blizzard needed an event to wow us and to wow me. I can't really talk about us. This is more just my personal belief. But I had high hopes, not necessarily expectations, but I did have hopes, which are different than expectations. I was more wishfully thinking, but I will say it was enjoyable nevertheless. The setting was really new in terms of the actual map. It was a bit darker in some areas, and rainy weather, which I really appreciated because I love rain. And overall was a really nice feel to the map. In conjunction with the map design, the story which was written and crafted was very interesting. We have some characters being introduced with this Archives event two in particular. Sojourn. I don't know if her name is pronounced Sojourn or Sojourn. I don't. I'm gonna go with Sojourn, the new character who narrates alongside the four playable heroes. And in addition to her, there was a mysterious Omnic character, which was revealed at the very end of the Archives event. This is where Doomfist has this little conversation, and then it pans to this character, and you're like, ooh, he looks spicy, he looks delectable, he looks like he has flavor. So, with the, on the basis of lore, it was quite nice to see Archive events tend to always do a pretty good job with the story. Mostly, I'm saying this mostly because Overwatch is not a heavy story game in terms of its gameplay where story is woven in. It's mostly, story is mostly delivered through side cinematics, hero reveals, or comics. So whenever the Archives event rolls around, it's nice to see what they'll do. Overall, I think the story was palatable, brought in some interesting ideas with the main character. I never even summarized what was happening. Basically, we're chasing after Maximilian to get to Doomfist, I believe, and Maximilian seems to be an interesting character. He's not straight up one-sided. He does seem to be a bit more flexible in terms of what benefits me at this specific time. I don't really see him as being a character who is bound to their team slash party, and seems to be like he could be cooperating with Overwatch in terms of like, look at my connections. This is where Doomfist is. These are where these other agents are. So that's the impression I got. Not sure if that's 100% accurate at all, but I love characters with gray areas. They're great narrative devices. They keep the player, the reader, or the viewer interested in what they'll do. Backstabbing or coming out of nowhere to save the protagonists. So that was the lore aspect. I am a story nut. In terms of the characters, we have Mercy, Tracer, Winston, and Genji, which are a very interesting squad. It's nice to see Mercy and Genji be together because they had that like little fling, right? Or like a hint of one. And even in the intro cinematic, they had Mercy come save Genji, and I was like, ah, the couple in Overwatch, which hopefully will be someday. But I think the playstyle of these four go really well together. Mercy's a solid healer with capabilities of healing herself by staying out of combat. Winston is a nice tank. Genji is some decent damage, and of course we have Tracer, who has seen a lot of action. She was in the first Archives event, if I'm correct. And so was Mercy, but Mercy, there needs to be a healer. So that were my opinion on the four characters. It was nice in terms of story. Of course, there's not a non-story, quote-unquote, story mode, where you can play with any Overwatch hero that you'd like. To quickly backtrack for a quick moment with the opening cinematic, I was disappointed that it was just a cinematic. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be out on the streets going after Maximilian in more of a chase type of way. And then it ended up being a basic escort the payload type game. And I guess this is a nice transition to the overall gameplay of the event. It was nothing spectacular. Yes, it was well implemented. Of course, detailed. Blizzard knows how to refine and get the kinks out of their games, but I would have liked to see something different. Maybe be on the back of a car, similar to the introduction cinematic with Tracer blinking from car to car, and maybe even a bike chase, or maybe play as Mercy where you like swoop in and give us some more mobility, give us something more interesting. But for what it was worth, it was basic, but it was good. So that's my honest impression. Did I still have fun? Did I still enjoy my time? Absolutely yes. Will I probably have more fun by cranking up the difficulty later on when I go back to play this more? Hell yeah. I did play this on hard mode, which I feel like is basically normal mode. It's not extremely difficult, but when you get to the higher difficulty scales, then it becomes you start to break a little bit of a sweat, and that's good in games. Just trying to think about anything else that I can really touch on. Oh, I guess I can touch on the ending, or my overall impression of the length of this event. It felt short. It felt really short. You hit a couple checkpoints, then you escort a payload, and it immediately goes into a cinematic. No boss fight, really, except a final wave of troops, which we've seen before. And it left me wanting more. And I guess that's just also a side critique I have, is that there were no new models. Fairly certain. We had the snipers, we had the assassins, we had the basic troops, and then we have the heavies. There wasn't any new Talon foot soldier to deal with. No medic. What if there was like a medic to keep other Talon troops alive, or some trapper, such as like Symmetra, something like that. Overall, the length left me wanting more. It felt rushed, almost, at the end, because then we just intercept Maximilian, and we're like, oh, look it. We're here for story. But, it was probably done for the sake of story. This will probably be elaborated upon and stretched with time, but overall, I thought it was a good event. I might have wanted something maybe a little bit different, but I had fun. I'm going to, of course, be playing with my friends, and overall, it's a nice new event to have into Overwatch. To have in Overwatch, because you know we're starving for some Overwatch content, if you know what I mean. Like the video if you liked it. Comment below on your thoughts on Storm Rising if you've played it. If you haven't played it, what are your thoughts on the video of the gameplay? And subscribe if you'd like. If you don't, it's the free country, at least here in America. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.
My resources are quite substantial. Let me ask, what might you be in the market for?
An introduction.
Ah, and who is it you would like to meet?
My friend, the world doesn't understand visionaries like us. I respect what you are trying to accomplish. You fight for your kind. It's noble and doomed to fail. But with Talon's help, that can change.
You have my attention.